into another episode of Uncovered. I'm here with a very, very, very special guest. This person he doesn't know. I'm about to tell him how much he has impacted my life and my journey. We'll get into that a little bit more, but if y'all do not know, this is Coach Cuonzo Martin, who was just recently announced as the new head coach of Missouri State. And this is a kind of coming full circle because you've been here before.
We're spinning the block.
Yeah, we spinning the block. We spinning it back. But we'll get into that a little bit. But I'm going to test your memory.
Yes.
Okay, this is a long time ago, so if you don't remember, I'm not gonna hold it against you. But if you do remember, you get points.
Okay.
Okay, do you remember the first time that we met? See, no points, but I won't hold it against you. I'm gonna tell you. So, the first time that we met, this is your first year at Mizzou. Y'all were getting ready to go on the road for a game, and y'all were sitting in Mizzou Arena at a women's game. And I came up to you and I said, "Hi, my name is Jalen Johnson, and I am a journalism student. I'm studying sports broadcast journalism." And I said, "And it means so much to me to be able to cover a black head coach my last year in school." And instead of just saying, "Nice to meet you, like thanks for coming over," you sat me down, you asked me to sit down, you asked about me, what I wanted to do, and you poured into me in that moment. Amen. About just to continue going on with my craft and to do all these things. So you are part of the reason that I'm still here, because it's a part of Amen. People pouring into you at all points. So I wanted to start off by saying thank you for being that to me, and I know to a lot of different people on your journey. So I'm really excited that you allowed me to come and sit down with you for a little bit.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on Uncovered. I'm honored. It's truly a blessing, and I don't take this for granted.
So we are going to start at a common thread between us. We are both from the best city on the planet Earth, St. Louis, Missouri. Even though he grew up on the other side of the river, we also will not hold that against you at all. But tell me about what your childhood was like and growing up in East St. Louis.
For me, it was great. I mean, born on the St. Louis side. My mom moved to the east side maybe when I was 3-4 years old. A tremendous experience. And obviously, people talk about East St. Louis, the roughness and things that, the uncomfortable things to talk about, the things that takes place in low socioeconomic areas. But it's been a great place for me. Great stomping grounds. A lot of wonderful people, and people we never really know they come from East St. Louis until we talk about LaFonso Ellis, Jackie Jonah, Catherine Dunham, Miles Davis, so many people. Darius Miles is a basketball, so many successful people. And it made me, and my whole goal is just try to be the best version I can be as I left East St. Louis at 18 years old. And most importantly, was to try to make my mom's life better. And not that she said, "You owe me anything," or "Go do this to make me happy." I just wanted to make her life better, and that was my sole mission. Didn't really have a plan, but just to make her life better.
When did you realize that basketball was going to be that vehicle to do that?
I would say the first time we probably went to Illinois basketball camp, because when I was coming out of high school, my mind was sold on going to the University of Illinois. That was it. It was a great place to be. It had a lot of great players. We enjoyed watching them play. We went up there a lot. My high school coach had great relationships with their staff. So we used to go to summer basketball camps, and we played against some of the guys in Chicago. Because, at that time, it wasn't really grassroots AAU basketball, so it was just your high school team. So when you go to Illinois camp, it was all the best teams from Chicago, Peoria, all over Illinois. And so we had a chance to go up against a lot of guys in Chicago. We'd win the tournament, we'd win the games. And it just kind of like, okay, we can really do this. Because again, when you're in your own circle, just your own little world against your guys, when we were the biggest guys in Chicago, because that was kind of the measuring stick in the state of Illinois. And we ended up winning 3 state championships, by the way, but it just
slide that in there.
So that was really it. By the time, I would say finishing my sophomore year, playing against a lot of great high school players, and it just, okay, this thing could happen. But again, still not knowing what that meant. You can get a scholarship to go somewhere, but what does that mean 10 years down the road? I didn't really understand that, because at that time, there weren't a lot of talks about being an NBA player like it is now. Mm-hmm. If you had a chance to be an NBA player, great. It was an honorable thing to achieve if you can get that, but really it was just about what's next. And again, I had no comprehension of what 40,000, I know the number, 40,000 was a lot of money, 100,000 a lot of money, just didn't know, it was just like one day at a time. Then when I got a scholarship to go to Purdue, it started to change. You started to get a better understanding of what life is and what you could become outside of basketball.
When do you think it became like, I want to go to the NBA? What, I guess, generation did that change where it became like, that is the goal?
I would say when Glenn Robinson was my college teammate, like a brother to me. I think, again, Michael Jordan, that was an era, so it was great basketball. People wanted to see basketball because Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, a lot of great players, but not so much, you weren't so consumed with, I got to get there. Like, if I don't get there, life is not worth living. That wasn't the case. But I think when Glenn Robinson in '94, the big dog, when he came out, he asked for $100 million. I think that really changed the game. And I think today we should start giving him credit for demanding $100 million because he was that level of player, the first pick in the draft. And I think it really started to change. Now you see guys making Jaylen Brown signed a $304 million contract, so just astronomical numbers, which is great for the game. But I think really '94 is when people start to pause and say, okay, this is the reality. And I think Glenn ended up selling it for like 66 or 67 million or maybe 68 million, which was a lot of money at the time. And I think that's where it started to change. And then fast forward to the one and done era. I think that's what really was like, okay, this is reality for a lot of kids. So now the whole focus, it wasn't so much going to college for 4 years, so that landscape had changed. So now it's one and done. How can I be a one and done player if max 2 years? And I think that's where they started to flip the script and you started to see guys really focus on trying to be pros and weren't so much consumed with getting a degree from college.
What is your thought on the want to be one and done or the one and done versus having a long time in development in college before you go to the NBA?
Well, I think you can have an idea or thought process of wanting to be one and done, just like many young men wanted to be Michael Jordan, wanted to be Kobe Bryant. You can want to be that all day long, but there's a reality. So I think we have to be realistic as coaches and as parents to say, okay, not trying to shatter your dreams as my child or even as a coach. I'm coaching you. I don't want to shatter your dreams, but I want to be real here. That's probably not a possibility for you. We can work toward that, but let's focus on this as well. And I'll never forget when Coach Katie, my college coach, it was my junior year, and Glenn was, that year Glenn came out early, he was projected as no one picking the draft. And I wasn't the guy getting drafted that year, but Coach would say, Zoe, and he held me up in front of the guy and said, Zoe, you really need to focus on class. You're not going to be an NBA player. Harsh to hear from your coach, but it didn't hurt my feelings. It was just kind of whatever feelings at the time just made me angry to go out and compete. Yeah. And it's like, okay, but it wasn't like he was bashing me. It was just kind of like you need to focus on the other things. So, and obviously Coach was an eloquent speaker and man, but maybe utilize a little more eloquence in how he delivered that, So it just, it was one of those deals. So, but again, I understood it. And it wasn't like, okay, I'm not going to play hard the next day. But it was his way of saying, you're probably not going to be an NBA player, so let's focus on you getting your degree so you can be successful in life. And I think for me at that point, it was like, okay, that's a reality. Because I didn't take offense to it outside of as a competitor, but it wasn't like I was so upset I'm ready to transfer. That wasn't the case. Yeah, because you did end up going and playing in the NBA. And so playing career was Purdue. Yes. Went to the Hawks. You asked about the Hawks. Yes, and then did some CBA and all these different things. But at what point did you realize I can be a coach? Well, I didn't. Okay, I'll go back. I remember ever since I was in elementary school, I would always be the leader or the captain. Even the gym teachers, we have gym class, they would make me the captain for whatever reason. So maybe just a natural gift. And then when I went to Purdue, Coach Katie made me a captain as a sophomore, and it was the first time in his career to do that because I guess I had leadership qualities. And I think it was more like, because I wasn't the best player on the team, but just what I was willing to do to be successful, the sacrifice I was willing to make, and the things I was not going to compromise as a player, and we're trying to win as a team. This is what it takes to win. And I'll never forget, sometimes I'd come in a halftime, I got tears in my eyes in the halftime of a game, and we winning the game. And just because I was so, not like, but just like, just because we're trying to win this game. This is what it takes to win this game. And I think if you see it as a coach, a guy have that level of desire to win and be successful, and he's willing to sacrifice certain things, he has something special in him. So Coach Katie, 2 weeks before I was about to go back and play in Avellino, Italy, Coach Katie called me and just said, Zoe, I have a job. I want to have you on my staff, but I had to go. But he said it won't be until next year. So it won't be until 2000 I would start. So I had to go back to get my degree. So when I was in college, most cases you graduate 4 years because you take summer classes. That's 3 to 9 hours depending on classes you have. I never went to summer school when I was in college because I felt like I could make more money in the summertime working a job. So I was making $330, $350 every 2 weeks. So I was sending money home.
You were making bank at that point.
So I mean, again, but the other part of that, Jaylen, people never really talk about. A scholarship only cover what it covers, not as if I had extra money in my pocket.
Right.
So, but even back then, 25, 30 years ago, somebody's on scholarship, it just mean everything was paid for. They had no money, so it wasn't like I had money to buy clothes or anything like this. So it wasn't as easy as people thought. And so when he called me about the opportunity to be on his staff, I went back and got my degree. And even in that, my wife and I, we were pretty much in a hole or just on paying my way back to school. And they talking about a scholarship guy, so I had to pay my own way back. Mm-hmm. So we probably $20,000 in the hole. That's real talk.
Yeah. Okay. So we have so many branches that I want to go to, but since you brought her up, one of my favorite topics on earth is love. Yes. And I know one of your favorite human beings on earth is Miss Roberta.
Yes, okay. Roberta Lynn Jones Martin, but a phenomenal person. I mean, just very intelligent. We met as sophomores. We both were sophomores at Purdue. We met. I was at Purdue every year. That Saturday, you had your parties and all that, but everybody go to, pretty much, especially the black community. We hang out at the Arby's. Okay. That was the thing. But it was like a chance. They call it Chance Hill. But you have Taco Bell, all these different spots. But Arby's, somehow we all migrated inside of Arby's.
Okay.
So. I'm with my guys, my teammates, and she, with her friends, and one of her kind of like brothers, but they grew up together, but he's really her brother's best friend, but they're basically like family. Mm-hmm. And if she telling the story, it's gonna come off different than how
of course. So
I'm thinking it's kind of like, man, my little sister want to meet you, that sort of thing, but she telling her way, that's fine, but. I would
love to hear her way.
You got to hear it. I mean, of course, it's going to benefit her how she said, but so we connected and we talked, just got exchanged numbers because at that time wasn't cell phones. So you had your dorm number. So give her my dorm number, whatever. I can't even remember that. So, and then we really didn't do anything or talk for about another 2 weeks. So then when I called her. Just said, what's up? Me and Glenn was about to go out, do whatever. I said, if you want to hang out. And she was like, well, I'm going to hang out with some of my friends because it's my birthday today. I said, oh, yeah, it's your birthday? I said, it's my birthday, too. And she was like, oh, here we go again. It just got, and really our birthday is on the same day. Yeah. And then we hit it off there. And then, so that was our sophomore year. And then we just built a great relationship. But just a phenomenal person, very intelligent. We've been blessed. She taught me a lot of life lessons. I mean, you talking about filling out a check, doing all these things that, she had a stick shift. I mean, just learn how to drive a stick shift. I tore one up when I was playing in Avellino, Italy, but I thought she taught me, but she tried. Just as a young lady, but she has 4 older brothers, so a lot of lessons she learned from them, but just a lot of valuable lessons. She's strong. She was able to tell me no then. No, this is not the path we need to go. Here's what we need to do, because even in our hard times, we never, meaning like financial hard times, we never asked anybody for money. Can you give me this? We just found a way. We fought, scratched, and clawed on our own. And of course, she worked at Eli Lilly downtown. She was in human resources. She got a degree from Crandall School of Business at Purdue, which is a phenomenal institution. Mm-hmm. But just a beautiful person, and she values family. She values our family, and I never have to worry about anything in life if she's with me, because she'll take care of everything. Now again, I plan on being with her until they put me in the casket, but I will say this, she's one of those, if we ever got a divorce, now that's not gonna happen, I'm just giving you a point.
That's not happening.
Yes, that's not happening, so I'm just giving you a point. It's like, it's almost as if I would say, whatever she wants, give it to her. Just because she's brought that much to our family, and she's that level of person. She has that kind of value. And when you can have, and as a coach in this profession, as you navigate through these muddy waters, like you're fighting in quicksand in this profession and what we do, and I say that with all peace and joy, is she makes it where you do what you do, I'll take care of everything else. She's able to say no, she's able to say it's okay. And I'll never forget when my first year here at Missouri State, in 2008. It might have been in December, early January. We were struggling as a team, your first time as a head coach, and she just said, and I was in the bed, and again, early in the morning, whatever the early is, 6, 7, whatever, and I was still in the bed, and she just said, is this how you want to lead? Is this how you want your leadership to look? Meaning, okay, you had hard times, are you gonna sleep to 10 o'clock, or you gonna get up and go? Just kind of really, it's her way of saying, it's what you do. You got to do what you do. All of a sudden, I was out of the house probably 15 minutes. I was in the office. I mean, just, and I'm exaggerating. It could have been 20 minutes. I was in the office, but I understood what that meant at that time about if you're going to lead, you need to show them how it looks.
Yeah.
That's on good or bad days. And that's just the type of person she is. And she's not afraid to tell me, now you got to get better. Here's where you struggle. Here's where you got to get stronger. And when you have somebody that loves you and can be honest with you, it's an amazing asset to have.
From deciding you were going to take a break to deciding you were going back, what was her kind of advice in that time?
Well, she was pretty much done with the sport and the game. Not shouldn't say the sport of it, because if you got kids playing and all that, but she was done with it from the standpoint of me coaching. Just like she just felt like it takes so much out of you, and she just felt like, in her words, you're not appreciated like you should be appreciated because of who you are, the man you are, what you stand for. And like I said, my value when I bring to the table for young men I'm coaching, the people on the surface might not see it because it's all about just winning games. And sometimes, in most cases, I shouldn't say sometimes, winning at all cost. It doesn't matter. And they don't value the student athlete. They value his production on the court of wins and losses, but they don't value that person because that same person, I cheered for you and I applaud you on the court, but I won't hire you in my company. So those are the lessons I try to teach as a coach, father, teacher, leader, and a pillar in our community, to teach our young men these lessons, man. Yes, you want to win games, and nobody's more competitive than I am by any stretch, but I also understood the value of seeing that young man get where he has to go. I had to be his eyes 20 years down the road, so that means he had to trust me. Now, he might not agree with everything I said, but there has to be a level of trust. So like, in terms of Roberta, she was just like, I'm pretty much done with it, just because, again, I don't like how the game did you, because she knows the impact behind the scenes on so many people that call me for advice, counsel, and that's all walks of life, white, black, it doesn't matter. She understands. She said, I don't want you to go through that. She said, the game, it changed you. I think it changed you because you're a guy that's filled with joy, excitement, laughter, and all, and it changed it. And I don't want you to become that. And it's amazing because I saw when she said, and it was just peace. So my last days at Mizzou, I'll never forget it. When I came home, they said, well, we parted ways and all that. And I came home, and she was there because I called on the way home. And I tell you, she was in the kitchen. My Addison was at school. Josh was obviously in Boston. He was finishing up at Boston University, getting his master's. Oh, he might have been working for a year. It might have been his first year out. And Chase was a walk-on at Purdue, so he's playing there. And they were practicing. And I just got home, and I was so exhausted. I just laid on her shoulder. And it's almost but it was only, I dozed off for maybe about 10 or 15 minutes, but it felt like 3 days. It just like, and there was a peace that came over me, just a piece of, like, almost like I'm saying, God, thank you, just because it's like since I left East St. Louis at 18, and at that time I was 50, going on 51. It's like I was running with track shoes on and boxing gloves, just fighting. Just fighting and just trying to be the best version that you can become and help so many people in the process, and just that peace of mind. And my whole thing, I jumped up, because I said, let me call Purdue staff, because they were practicing at that time. So I called the direct operations and I know them well. And I just called them and said, man, just give Chase a heads up. They let me go. I said, give him a heads up before he get out of practice. You don't want to be all on your phone. So I just did that because I knew he was practicing. So. And I called him, either text him because I knew he was practicing. I just said, give me a holler when you get out of practice, that sort of thing. And he was great with it. But it was, it was a peace that came over me. Then in the process of, we left there in July 5th. We moved to Orlando, Florida, Windermere, Florida, and that's July 5th. And I would say from July to maybe December, it was like I get up, like, what do you do next? Like, what you got to do something. But it was just really peace. There was nothing going on. I mean, we were surrounded by 3 lakes. When I walk out of my house, 100 steps, I'm at a lake, and and you can walk around, and just lakes all around. It was all peace. And pretty much 90% of the time, I got swim trunks on, sandals, and T-shirt.
You're living the
time.
life.
Yes, and we walk our dog. This is scripted, but for about 4 or 5 months, it's like I'm moving fast. Like, what? And it was nothing, it just kind of peace. And then September 23rd, my birthday, I started writing. And it was a blessing. So every day I would write. Then it got to a point after December, I would write 5 days a week. And it just a lot of beautiful writing. At some point, I might release it. And the thing I did, I was writing with my pen in my paper, because I've done journals for years, but I was writing with my pen and paper because what I wanted, if I'm no longer on this earth, or at some point my kids can see it was my writing, because people know my writing. If you've been around, you know that. So I wanted my writing. I would date it. I would put scripture on whenever I write about something, because it can be on Monday I'm writing about, okay, tough times, or I wish my pops was there, whatever. And I write it. It's my writing. So you had colleges calling. I just had no desire. You know, it was 2 or 3 I really entertained, but it wasn't in my heart, and I was still getting paid from the previous university. So what's the point of going to work? Do you really want to work that bad? So that means you rather leave Roberta and Addison just to go work, because they were staying there, because Addison transitioned to school. We want to make sure she stayed there. I was like, that's not worth it. And then, so this time came around, it was just a great opportunity. So now back in it, there are certain things that I don't want to deal with, people I don't want to deal with, type of players that I used to love. I don't want that anymore either, because it takes so much out of you. And it's like, this is really a two-way relationship. Like now when I'm recruiting guys, I'll say, man, I'll call him on Monday, and I'll say, okay, I expect you to call me tomorrow. Yeah. Because we build a relationship amongst each other. If I'm doing all the calling, then we're gonna transition out. This ain't gonna work. I don't want that relationship, because I want you to pick up the phone. That means, because you value the time you value to dial my number, pick it up. That means you took time into it, as opposed to me just calling. I'm not doing that.
Why Missouri State, and why now?
Yes.
Why was this the time to come back?
Well, I think for me, I knew if it would have been another year that I was done. And I was okay with that. Because I just feel like anytime I do, I give it everything I got. And I know what it takes out of me, especially when you operate in integrity. It takes a lot out of you. And I just feel like now is the time at a place I've been before, people I'm familiar with. Now, you still got to do the work on the wood. That never changes. But it's also a level where you can still win. You can win the highest level. You can win the conference tournament championship. You can make NCAA tournaments. You can make great runs. You can do all that. But I think it's still organic or innocent enough where you're not dealing with guys where every deal is just cut, where it's all about money. The whole thing is about money. And nothing wrong with that. If a young man get $1 million, $2 million, get all that. But I like the process. If I'm back in it, let me get back in here and be a part of people that value me. Because that's the other part too. Somebody that really values you, want what you have, appreciate what you have, because the reception has been great throughout the state. Also, the city of Springfield been wonderful people. So and now you can just coach basketball. And again, now whatever, it's going to take what it takes, but also having a team around me, meaning the staff of guys that really know me, and we have relationships for years. Yeah. Because in this climate, you need guys around you that you can really trust as a staff, that understand what we're trying to do, the level we got to do that, but also has the value to see that young man be successful.
You were the same person from beginning to end there, and have been the same person in, it seems like, all the stops that you have been at. Integrity, trying to make good husbands and good dads and all these things. And we took note of that as students, that we didn't hear negative things about the guys on the basketball team. That wasn't a thing. You know, maybe you have your little incidents maybe here and there, of course, because they're human and they're 18, 19, 20-year-old guys. But the things that we dealt with freshman and over sophomore year, you didn't hear about that. And so how do you deal with maybe somebody that you really would love to have on your roster that maybe has the skills and all the things, but that isn't aligned with your vision about how you want to coach?
Well, I think the biggest thing is I live off my experiences. Again, my dad is living, and I know where to find him, and I think he's a wonderful man. Now, for whatever reason, he wasn't consistent in my life. That's different, but I love him. So if he walked in today, we'd have a great time. So there's no negativity there, because in life we deal with things. As you get older, people have their own issues, whatever the case. So, but my mom raised me, and she raised me just to be a good person. She obviously dropped out at 16 years old, had her first son, had me at 18, my sister at 20 and 24. So just as a young mother, but just doing the right thing. So, and that's why I've always tried to live by it, and I give everything I got to young men. And sometimes that's uncomfortable because of what I say to them all the time. When you come into my program, you have to learn a different form of love because it's not natural, especially for a young man that grew up without a father present, where you see another man that hugs you. You know, that's like, man, hold up, man. It's probably uncomfortable if you're not used to that. But again, discipline is another form of love. I'm going to love you, but I also there has to be a level of discipline in order for us to get where we have to go. The best in the world have a level of discipline. I think young guys nowadays, I think maybe my experience in the last 5 to 7 years, they think discipline is like this. That's how you see the word discipline. Well, that's not the case, man, because it still takes what it takes for you to be successful. So you have to learn a different way to approach it. Because for me, I'm not a guy that yells a lot in practice. I got a lot of energy, but I don't do a lot of yelling. I don't do any cussing. I'm not trying to attack your character. I'm trying to push you at a level to get you to become great. And I always tell guys, man, not everybody's going to be an NBA player. I said, but would you rather be an NBA player or the guy that owned the team? I said, because if he can pay a guy between $20 and $50 million a year, then why don't you own the team? So that's what I try to get guys to understand. We can be the best version of ourselves on the basketball court. But why not take ownership of a lot of things? And so we spend so much time in teaching those things, and they probably like, man, here go coach again. But we having breakfast with each other as a team. Our staff is there. I'm always present. I think that's one of the biggest attributes I think that I bring to the table as a coach. I'm always present. And so if they breakfast, I'm there. So if I'm not there, it means I was out on the road recruiting or something, but I'm always there. So they can always identify your coach is there. So they can never say, well, coach is never around. Because you have some programs the coach might be present for practice. After practice, you might never see him, might never have a talk with him. I'm always present, I'm always available. I think those are the biggest things. Seem simple, but it's real because they need to know you're there because again, and I say to them, you can talk about anything in the world to me, anything. I say, because in most cases I've probably done it or been around it, I experienced it. And that's a different level of trust. Like, man, it was basketball, now I gotta be able to talk to you about this. That doesn't feel good, and you got to get used to that. And I just try to give them everything I got on a consistent basis, even to this day. I mean, I've had relationships with guys that didn't choose my program. I mean, they'll call me, text me on different information. Because, man, this is the way I look at it, really. If that young man is in somebody's college, he's getting his schooling paid for, and now you're able to get money in your pocket with name, image, and likeness, man, we're creating generational wealth. So we winning the game. That's how I look at it. I mean, so we just got to get you in somebody's school. Yeah. If it's mine or not, let's get you in somebody's school. And that's the whole mission. How many kids we can get in school? Because I think we're fading there. We got to get them back in school. See, and we can't minimize the impact of getting a degree. I mean, I don't know where we fall in where it's like a degree is not important. I said that's pure ignorance in my opinion. Now, can you be successful without a degree? Yes. Yeah. But we need degrees in order to be successful in life long term and do the things we need to do to knock down certain doors that won't open for us. We need those degrees. So I think our leaders, whether they're coaches or parents, need to stop telling these kids they don't need a degree because I think that's pure ignorance. When
the parting ways happened with Mizzou, I don't think I've ever seen so many other head coaches in the same conference blatantly say they didn't understand. Mm-hmm. They were confused. They were praising not only your X's and O's on the court, but who you are as a human being. How did that feel, seeing all of that, and your emotions in that moment?
People would send me stuff like Rick Barnes, and Frank Martin and I, we have a great relationship. We like brothers from another mother, but just, a lot of guys, Buzz Williams, we have a great relationship. But just, Cal, I mean, just on and on. Tom Crean, just, you just do what you do and you try to be the best version of you, whatever it is, because everybody has their own style. I am who I am. So when I'm done coaching, that's who he was. That's it. This guy, that's who he was. And I just try to be me and authentically me every day. You appreciate it, but these are the same guys you probably saw they still communicate today. So that wouldn't just let me say this now, because they also know what I try to bring to the table, whether it's what you see on the game or coaches' Zoom calls or just try to better our game, whatever that is, just to make sure the young man's life is better. So I think they realize that part. But also, guys would call me off different stuff outside of the basketball piece. Because I think it's such a good feeling. If you think about it, Jalen, if you can call somebody genuinely call somebody and get information, whether you agree with it or not, but you want to know an answer, what they thought. And when that conversation is over, stay between the two of you. And you can consistently do that, you can grow in that. That's a great feeling to have. Because in our profession, there's very few people I would feel comfortable with talking about, knowing that they would stay there and that's it. Because people call me, and I say this all the time, and if people listen and know, I say, once we're done talking, I put it in the casket, it's gone.
Yeah.
That's it. It just, because that's a great feeling to know I can talk to somebody and we leave it there. So when all the coaches around the country, I got a lot of, great calls, and that's a great feeling. But I just felt like my assignment was up there. It was no hard feelings. It really wasn't. Because who wants to be somewhere where you're not wanted? The thing that I've always argued in those situations is like, now, are we fair when you're dealing with black coaches and white coaches? Are we fair? And of course we're not fair. I mean, we understand that, because I can reel off 9 coaches right now that doesn't have the same skin color I have, that are not black coaches, and they had X amount of time. I took over the worst program in Power 5. Now again, whatever happened, it didn't happen. Okay, we're charged to the game, but let's be consistent across the board if we're doing that. So I think we, in the college game, and I would say this, because I was going to say commissioners, presidents, athletic directors, they have to be better. How do we identify black talent, men and women? Because there's so many out there, but we're not getting the opportunities. And then our leash is way shorter than our counterparts. And I don't make it seem like we're enemies because we're all in this thing together, black or white, but just it's how we're being judged. It's not fair. So those are the things we have to get better at, because it's not good and it's only getting worse. And I think when name, image, and likeness, it'll continue to get worse, and all of a sudden you'll look up, I'm not sure that the black head coach exists 10 years down the road if we stay on the pace we're on now.
Where do you think is the fix for that?
I just think it's decision making, and I think again, a man like Greg Sankey, when you're talking the college game, he's the most powerful guy in my opinion in the college game, and I think he'll step up and do what needs to be done. I think he's behind the scenes doing a lot of things, and not that me and him have talked in the last however long, but I just knew his impact when I was in the league. But he's a guy that really has to step up and make a conscious effort of making people identify we need to be better in these areas. And I think our ADs have to be stronger, but I think here's where you can grow. You don't have to, there's no degree in college to say I'm an athletic director degree.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not questioning athletic directors' qualifications to do their job, the ones that are currently doing their job, I'm not questioning that part. But what I am saying, why don't we have more athletes that play the game as athletic directors? Because if they play the game, they understand the game, they got a degree from the school, why can't they be an athletic director? So I think we have to do a better job of transitioning our athletes, especially our respective universities. If I finish at this university and I'm not going to be a pro, then transition me into that role of being an athletic director.
Yeah.
And now you have diversity on your team. So that means if you get in your athletic director department, your team, if it's 10 people, then there's diversity in there. That's men, women, black, white, Asian, whatever you want to have in there, but there's a lot of diversity. So now we can be better at making decisions. But I think in most cases we hire who look like us and who we're familiar with and who we have relationships with. Nothing wrong with that. But you see the results. And now I'm 52. If I'm on this earth at 72, we'll have the same conversation. I'll say the same thing. You just put this in, record it, and just rewind. It'll be the same thing. Yeah. Because if we don't change it now, it'll be the same thing. So when I speak to young athletes, and when I talk to a lot of different coaches, I say, man, stop trying to get your guys to be coaches. We don't need them to be coaches, right? We need to be in administrative roles so they can be a part of decision making. So until we get better at making decisions or being part of decision makers on the board of curators on those committees, we will be right back where we started 20 years from now. And it'll be worse because now the money's involved. So with name, image, and likeness involved, I don't necessarily need 3 or 4 assistant coaches on my staff that are black. I don't need them anymore because the money moves now, the money talks. So now I'll just hire guys that I like being around. I'm familiar with this guy. And now we have no opportunities and we have no one to blame but ourselves.
If you had a bunch of, young black coaches sitting in front of you right now, what would be your message to them as far as, not necessarily how to run a program, but like how to navigate this world, especially in the changes that are happening right now with NIL and things like that?
Good question. And I think that a couple of things. I'd say a lot, and obviously I'd say most of the stuff I'd say we had the camera phones off and everything.
Right.
But really on the surface, I would say build a relationship with the athletic director and find out what would cause the athletic director to fire you from day one. What would cause you to fire me? You want to know that up front. Just as you build a relationship with the athletic director, build it with the president. Same way, because the president has just as much impact in part of decision making, what's going on campus, what's going on in the state. Build a relationship with the president and athletic director, and make sure you're on the same team with both of those entities. I think that's very important. And then the other part, get to know the community leaders. Get to know the community leaders and help them understand what you're trying to do. And I think as coaches, if you're a coach and you have donors and supporters come to your practices, they travel with your team to road games, you allow them to come behind the scenes. So when you're watching film as a team, you're watching video, have them come behind the scene. Because stuff I used to do all the time, I would have the donors and supporters behind the scenes. So we watching film the night before the game, and I would say, okay, Harold, I'm just throwing in there. Harold, get up, man. Give me 3 things that you love about your mom. And that's different than the game, because the game gonna take care of itself.
Yeah.
Then I'll say to another guy, Steve, if you were on a hospital bed and they said you had 2 hours to live, what would you try to do over? So now what happens, those donors and supporters say, oh man, I just saw him as a ball player.
Yeah.
It just changed the whole game. Now he became human. Now he became one of those donors and supporters. That's the guy, I love for him to work for my company. Those are the things I try to do, because this is gonna take care of itself, and eventually it's gonna be over. But if coaches, we don't help these young men, again, I'll take it a step further. When I graduated from Purdue, and I graduated now, you don't have to judge me, that's just, I would say like a 2.4 maybe. I mean, it was tough school. And if I didn't go play basketball and Coach Katie didn't give me an opportunity to be back on the staff after playing, I'm not sure where I was qualified to get a job with my resume, 2.4. Because somebody else had a 3.8, they were getting a job. So what that meant, Coach had to make a call for me to get that job. Now, will Coach make the call based on our relationship? How did that relationship go? Because I was out there playing. I think that's very important. And I think what a lot of athletic directors and a lot of coaches have to understand is not so much that they got a degree, that's not enough. Somebody has to make the call to help knock down the door.
Yeah. Because
if you're looking at me with a 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, and my competition at 3.9, 4.4, I'm not getting that job. So Coach, I need you to make the call. And I think those things are very important. I think in coaching, you have to really know, especially when you're dealing with young men, young black men, because I'm going off my experiences. You have to be that coach, that father, that teacher, the counselor, the psychiatrist. You got to be all those things, and that's got to be normal. It's got to be normal. You got to flow in that conversation. Your door has to always be open. It can't be, well, I'm out of town, well, I'm not taking this call. No, they coming to the head coach first. And if you're not built for that assignment, don't become a head coach.
You're taking some time off. What do you think is the biggest difference between Cuonzo Martin, the coach then, and Cuonzo Martin, the coach now?
Great question, but I am who I am. That'll never change. I think the biggest thing, like Roberta, my wife, said, she said, I want you to be able to coach with joy and peace. She said, I want you to coach on the sidelines like you do in practice. I want the same, like you do in practice, laugh and joke. Just be that. Can you be that? And I said to her, I can be that. I don't know if I can be that. And the reason why I say that is it's a battlefield for me, and I mean it in a good way. And I don't want to use the word war, because I understand what war is, so I'm be respectful to that. But man, we're competing. I don't know how to smile. I'm competing. It's like I've never been wired to do that. You know, just man, we balance out. So I will make a conscious effort between my staff, and it'll be genuine. So I can't be phony. I will try to sit down more, because I would always stand up just like I'm part of the team, but I got to sit down and let my staff. I would do a better job. And this is one thing for sure. Great question. I would do a better job of delegating to my staff. Each guy knows what he's supposed to do, so that way I can do what I need to do to be the best version of me. So I would certainly do that. But to coach with joy, I guess I'll try to smile. You know, just like me.
It's hard. It's hard in that arena.
It is, because that's what you do. It's like not like I'm this tough guy walking around, but just, man, I'm competing. You know, just and I'll try.
We're gonna run this back at the end of this, at the end of the first season, see how much you sat down.
Okay. Yes.
And if you were smiling, and if we can see joy. So we're gonna compare and see how this plays out. So tell me what Missouri State fans can expect from this first year back at the helm.
Well, simply put, a team that's going to fight to win this conference. That's simply put. And that's a real reality when you put the pieces in place to do that. A team that we've always had teams that played extremely hard. So that's a given. You have to do that because you owe that to your fans to play hard. When all else fails, you can put forth an effort. I just think the effort with the execution. One thing I've done with my time out, because my DNA has always been defensive mindsets. It's always been my DNA. And enjoy seeing skill development. Guy gets better. Those are always two things that I've tried to master. Well, what'll be different now is our teams will be, I guess, better offensively, spend more time offensively than I've ever done before. And I'll have, a couple guys that kind of really solely lock in on the offensive piece, because when I look at the game and I look at practice, my mindset has always been a defensive DNA. That's just maybe for where I come from and whatever that is. So we will spend more time on that, more time than ever offensively early, and try to really enjoy that, because talking with a lot of guys when I was out with NBA guys, G League guys, college guys, going to a lot of different practices, just seeing it, and it was always fun to be a part of it, and seeing that and seeing how teams build their offense up. And so I think that part will be exciting as well.
Are we still going to hear you yell, hands, hands, all the time?
See, now you were here. You would definitely hear it.
Okay.
But maybe I'll have one of my assistants, man, you yell it this time. So, because I guess, if let's say, hopefully we're so good at it, I don't have to yell it.
Okay. That's a fair assessment. You'll see them before you even have to yell.
Yeah.
You've been good in this space. It's probably because you've been podcasting for a couple months now. I think you did very well. Why start the podcast? Where'd that come from?
So I would say June of 2022, Roberta and I, we talked about, we were taking notes, and one of my friends, Jonathan Johnson, he started a podcast, and he was doing it, and I met him. He came to one of our practices when I was at Mizzou. He came to practice, we would talk all the time, and he would go around speaking to colleges about podcasts. And at that time, man, I'm not really thinking about a podcast this time. So then at June of 2022, he said, Coach, what's your thoughts about a podcast? I think it'll be great, this and that. I'm like, man, I just not really. And then we met with him several times via Zoom. So we would take notes about it. So I was thinking, this June 2022. And every month I said, okay, I'm gonna start a podcast. I went out and got a microphone. Just different, serious, microphone, this, and I didn't do it. And then June 2023, I just said, let's go, let's go. And did it, started the podcast. So then I met with a production company, Hi Hello, down in Florida, a great family. Carlos and Carolina, husband and wife, they do a great job. Their podcast, Hi Hello Lab Studios, phenomenal. So we did a lot of photo shoots in July, and my first episode maybe started in September, and it was rolling. It was a different experience at first, because my first podcast, because he said, how you want to go about it? You do your first one, a kind of introduction, then you do one of who you are, and then really what you want to talk about. And I did it. In that first podcast, it was maybe like 34, 35 minutes. I'm just talking and just going. I'm like, man, do I pause? How do you go back? Because the camera's going. I'm like, I was going nonstop. And then the next one was the same way. And then after a while, because the first one I did was like this. And I said, man, I use my hands a lot, so I need a table, I need a bit of pen, that sort of thing. So we finally got the table, and it's just been rolling ever since. It's been great, and we'll continue to drop episodes, and I won't stop doing that, because it's amazing how many people around the country that listen to the podcast, and people I would have never thought of. People, black, white, just never thought of it. Like, man, I like this podcast, I like that, and just, because I guess, one, because it's real. I don't have nothing to hide. We talk about different topics, and what the podcast also helped me with is, you do research and scouting reports, so you do a lot of research and studying. But what it also did, it taught me to become a better listener. Because you have to listen. So it's not as if I have 60 questions. Right. I might have 5 questions, and then I do my homework. Then I feed off the energy. Okay, here's the next one, because it's real. A lot of times I'm asking questions on my life experiences. How can this better my life? How can it help somebody else? Or my mom was single parent. How can it help single parent moms? Depending on how you answer the question. So it was real. And we rarely did edits we just kind of roll. And sometimes I just say, no, keep it like that. Because the first one we did, Roberta's like, just don't. I said, let's go ahead, roll. Let's roll. Yeah. And just roll. And then so what I do, I bounce stuff off my nephews. I got 3 nephews that I bounce stuff off of those guys. Mm-hmm. And they'll say, no, that roll. And they just, so, but I like it that way because I don't want that. And I don't want to come in there with no tuxedo on. Just like, right. This is real life stuff. And we've had phenomenal energy with it, and I just don't think I'll stop. But we took about a month or so off because of the NCAA tournaments. We were following Purdue, my son with them, and obviously we Purdue alums, and they made a phenomenal run. And so now we'll release the next episode here coming up, and we'll keep going.
I'm so excited about it. I've been watching, been listening. You're doing a great job. So if y'all have not tuned in, It All Counts is the name of the podcast. It's really, really good. You can find it on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast. Go ahead and tell them how to find you on Instagram, Twitter.
It's Coach Cuonzo. Now, it's only one Cuonzo in this country, really. Cuonzo. Coach Cuonzo. And I got to say the name, so you already know it. Because a lot of people say Quan, but
they do want to put the Q. Cuonzo.
And you can find it anywhere, but we just have a great time with it. And if you know of any great guests that you think that'll benefit you in listening, we'll make it happen.
Why do you feel like it's important for you and your story to be uncovered?
Great question. I just think a young guy, in my life experiences, and I guess you don't have nothing to hide just kind of because you uncovered it, but I seen my mom in an abusive relationship when I was, from like 6 to 12. There were a lot of tough things. My brother spent 10 years in prison. Both of my sisters had babies at 18, 19. Now one has a master's degree, very successful, and one teaches has a PhD, so they're doing phenomenal things in life, but they didn't quit, they didn't give up, because we had to keep going, we had to keep pushing. And I witnessed some tough things growing up in East St. Louis, in my experience, and I've been blessed to coach a lot of great basketball, be at a lot of great places, and even had tough experience in those places, but really tough on the surface, but great life lessons, because God has blessed me with the gift to continue to carry the torch on whatever that is. Because again, I just say to God, I'll never forget I was in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was walking down the train tracks, and I just said, God, I'm tired of running. And what I meant by that is, for years your prayers are always, God help me with this, God provide me with this. When you're growing up, God put food on the table. Those are your prayers, closing your back. Those are your prayers growing up. And this might have been 2013. I just said, God, I'm tired of running. So I just said, give me your toughest assignment. I'm tired of running from the line. I want to be the lion chaser. So whatever your toughest assignments are, and I would say this, I said, give them to me. But I said, in giving them to me, give me the strength to get back up. And then if you don't give me the strength to get back up, that means I'm no longer on this earth, then take care of the family that you provided for me. And that's what I would always say. And I said at the time, and I live by that. So there's nothing that really scares me unless somebody harm my family. There's nothing whatever assignment God want to give me that assignment. I feel like I'm built for it. Just like I was diagnosed with cancer at 26 years old. I went from 215 pounds to 185 pounds. I did chemotherapy for about 4.5 months. And hearing the doctor say, when you find a tumor between your chest and lung area, and the doctor says, I don't know if you're going to die, but this is life-threatening. When you hear those words at 26, 27 years old, it's like, shh, and you just keep plugging. And in that whole process, I just said to God, whatever happened, just allow me to see my son Joshua turn 18, and Joshua's 26 today. So I'm winning the game of life, and so for me, this is all blessing, this is all joy. So uncover, that's my life. Anything you want to know, I have nothing to hide, and it's real. That's it.
Yeah, I don't even know how to, we're gonna end on that. If y'all are in the state of Missouri, y'all better come and buy these tickets to come get in these games. I'll be here. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today. This meant a lot to have you here. So thank you. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see y'all next time.